everyone, and welcome to yet another lifting episode. Today's episode was recorded on 9/28/2023. This is going to be fairly fascinating. This goes off of some of the things you've heard on GIC over the years and on the lifting over the years. You may have even seen me repost the Simon Parks interviews as one episode that talk about Atlantis and Lemuria, which is fairly fascinating. But you've heard us also on GIC over the years talk about the same, where different groups have come in that are in different layers, different things, like from the Mayan Federation to the ones in Agartha, to Halm and his family that are in the other frequency. You have the ones in the other pocket that Mu is still intact within. So you have at least a few different groups here, and plus you have the variety of others, like some of the forest people groups that look like the Samoan type groups. The shorter neck ones, those are Lemurian descendants. You have the Syrian descent lineage. You have some Lyrian, and you have some Dogman, same as on Atlantis. You have a lot of these. So I'm going to now open this circle to true benevolence with no conflicting agendas. So, Joanna?
We are all one, and when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. We pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved ones, to let healing energies in. Let them love you and nourish you and bring you to your highest good. We pray for ourselves, our friends, our family, our loved ones. Again, to let healing energies in, to let them love you and nourish you and bring you to your highest good. We ask for benevolence to join us now with no conflicting agenda. Those beings or friends or guides who wish to come in and hear and or participate in this conversation that we're going to have today, we ask for also for any malevolent or mischievous energies that wish to make it more difficult to have this conversation and or impede an understanding, to please kind of be swept away so we can have a conversation free and clear. And again, blessings and highest good to everyone out there. So with this and an agreement, we say so be it.
Be it. So if anybody has looked at our material, and I'll give a rundown here, looked at our material, they know about a group that people channel out there called they call them the Lemurian Council, but the Lemurian Council actually existed 15,000 plus years ago. What happened on Lemuria when it was in the peaceful times? Atlantis and Lemuria actually had an alliance at one time, and eventually this degraded down into a war with both continents. And when the Orions began to get a bigger foothold on Atlantis started to decay first. That was a major confirmation there. Somebody was excited I mentioned that time frame. So whereas when the AI or the Orion signal came across utilizing the women of Atlantis, which eventually regurgitated in World War II as the Vril, then you have the scientists of Atlantis opening a bridge that sent a signal through, and the existing transhumanism that people were falling for over a period of time, getting into their mental decay, pretty much transformed some of them into more Terminator-esque type of things, very much like in Terminator Salvation, where you have the nanotech transform a human into a robot. It's that exact type of situation. That's where they got the idea from. And I've even had dreams of these robotic beings walking on the Atlantic Ocean as a result. On the flip side, on the Pacific side, you have Lemuria, and you have their council. Then the Syrian/Orion aristocracy pretty much took over there, dissolved the council, and they began a royal, like blue bloods type of situation there. Eventually, they became the elitist class, very much like you saw in Egypt during just before the intermediate period, where they revolted against the elitists there, and they became slightly more expanded after that. It's the same thing, where eventually the natives, like what you would see as native Hawaiians, this would be Mu Lemuria, revolted against the Syrian oppressors at that time. And what ended up happening during the final moments, people believe Lemuria sank. Yes, you can say this. But Lemuria, you have one patch that was Lemuria, and the outer whole continent was moved. People always mix these two up. It's like mixing up ghost and spirit, or soul and oversoul. It's think of Lemuria as like a soul. You think Mu is the oversoul, kind of thing. So people always mix up. It's like continent, country, or world and planet. So what happened was the Lemurian city, very much like you had on Atlantis, like they depicted in Stargate Atlantis, could actually lift off as a vessel. The center point could actually lift off as a ship or a flying city. That's actually true. What happened during when the Orions were invading that time frame? This is the Lemurians like to say in thanks in mostly part to Atlantis, but making kind of Faustian pacts and whatnot. But they also were to blame to an extent by allowing the Orion's meat puppets, the Syrian groups, to come in and the Dark Elves to come in and start overlording them. In the final moments, you had that ship that lifted off and went out into the Pleiades. And that's also where some of the original colonists came from. So in that time, you had part of Mu that sunk. There was like a larger world within world that became more of the home of some of the Lemurians. Some of them went into the inner earth. And then some of them also became some of our Mayan and native tribes. You hear us talk about the Mayan Federation. The ones who went out in space, dismantled that city, and became the ships that their fleet that's out there in the Pleiades. The planet called Maya. That's where turquoise comes from. So just as good as Shungai, because it was also created to fight AI, black goo, AI intrusions. That it's a very good filter in that way, and dream filter, I might add. That's why it's great to use on dream catchers. Dream catchers, the Mayan Federation, I do want to say one point, had dream catchers that were pieces of equipment that would grab the tulpa or thought form type of energies that came in. Our native tribes saw that and started making dream catchers as a result. I'm not poo-pooing one over the other. One might be a cargo cult of the other, like you saw in the Pacific with American soldiers that went over to the Philippines and they started mimicking them. It's kind of similar, like you saw in Star Trek Voyager, where the natives were mimicking Seven's markings and Chakotay's markings. Similar, but doesn't mean that there isn't magic and wisdom still there. Now, after this took place with Lemuria, they went over to the Marquesas, the remaining the Syrians that escaped from there, and a couple of their Orion overlords escaped from there, went to the Marquesas, and that's where you get some of the stories from about it was the outer edge of it was basically the eastern edge of Lemuria. Then they went over to Easter Island, and that's where you get the bird cult thing and the cannibalism that took place long after that when they used up all the resources. Basically making them unbalanced with the earth, the natives that were eventually there, that were also descendants of Lemuria people. This happened over a period of time. This wasn't like all at once. But the bird cult that formed. When I remote viewed that, I saw this angel-like form that was there that had like a bird-like face and everything, and I knew that was an Orion form there, like Anunnaki. But this particular group that talks of these different groups that I mentioned, from Mayan Federation to the one in their other bubble to the underground ones to the ones that are actually still in Hawaii that communicate with people to this day. They are that, I believe. They are that mixed with the one in the other bubble. I believe this particular group has a bit of a bone to pick or grievance. A bone to pick is probably too strong of a term. It's more like a mild grievance. Okay. With channelings that are out there, they're basically saying like the forest people have had similar grievances. There were forest people there as well. So they have similar grievances with some of the information that is out there that is on Lemuria in particular. Am I correct? Yes. And are people actually channeling you guys? Just like we have, or not? Yes and no. You might remember from my earlier channelings of being by the name of Tuhalm. They say Lemurian Council, but the council existed quite a while ago, and I believe people are connecting to the time frame of the original Lemurian Council when they get channelings from, or yeah, they're connecting, or they're getting a residual about what was there, and I don't think it's there anymore, sort of thing. It's just like when somebody remote viewed the Sidonian Plateau on Mars, they were connecting to a man that was in the past, that happened at the time of the last great conflict in the solar system. I believe they were connected. Oh, okay, okay. I just got this major hit there. The grievance here is, if I'm translating this correctly, guys, tell me if I'm wrong, but the what I'm translating here is some of the channelings people are getting about upcoming disasters, upcoming upheavals, upcoming, correct on all counts. Okay, things that happened already. It's like people always think of like an apocalypse or like a fake alien invasion or something like that, and it's really something that happened in the past, like with Asgard exploding, for instance, or Mars getting damaged or something like that. It's exactly along those lines. You guys are trying to tell me most of the people are communicating with Earth's past. You have it. Oh, with certain alignments, they're connecting meridian wise to something in the past. That's because that's how strings and portals work. They connect to the geographical opposite, but you may end up 10,000 years ago, or you may end up 1,000 years in the future. Certain alignments are different now. The poles have shifted; they're different. So with the current rotation, you guys are telling me that the continental drift, just like with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, it's the same thing, where he made fun of the Nazis by not accounting for continental drift. It went back to Archimedes' time frame, which it was always entangled to. They're telling me it's the same thing, where the coordinates have changed and people are connecting with something because they have an affinity for, because they were there. They have a self there, is what I'm being told. It's like they're connecting to a place in history. Like it may feel like home, and by all rights it is, but they're connecting to a point pre-disaster. Are they doing that with Atlantis too? Okay, they're connecting place a spot before the wars began or the fall. They think it's all happy, happy, joy, joy because they're not seeing the rest of this. Is what you're saying, because they are anchored to a point before. Okay, all right, that actually makes sense. That, and they're also being lied to by Orion stuff and everything. But are you saying that there is no Lemurian Council anymore? Off and on. It's not like it was originally, like how the people are seeing it. How many false channelings are there getting out there? Is this what is the main point of contention for this conversation? We'll just call it the Lemurian grievances and concerns. Oh, yeah, you find that funny, actually. But which one am I speaking to? Or is it to Holm and his family? Because I'm seeing two distinct groups here, like an ancient Mayan type of one with the feathering and stuff like that, and I'm seeing to Holm and your family, which means we're dealing with the space ones, and we're dealing with the Garthan-esque ones. Wrong? Well, who are the ones with the feathers?
Well, again, which one is current present moment? I'm curious about in this and tied to this time are both of them.
Okay, which one? Okay, yeah. True benevolence with no conflicting agendas, as we've said before. Which one is concurrent with our current present moment? Please tell me, or please show me as well. Ooh, that wiped out, not wiped out, wrong choice of words. That moved another group totally. The one with the feathers. The one that remained was the ones that, you look like you're wearing Hawaiian shirts, but that's not right. My brain's decoding it that way. You look like you have Hawaiian shirts on, but that's just the style. Okay. Oh, it's better if you just say it. Okay. They said I'm comprehending it, but I'm not talking quick enough. So okay. Mm, okay. To home. Okay. We've not heard from you in a long time. Since a couple Halloweens ago, in fact. So through the crystal, ironically, I have a big Lemurian crystal sitting here that happened to line up right to today. So hold on, blockage. Okay. Benevolent to home only. Boy, there the amulet's reacting to a lot of annoyances. Paying attention to this. So I must be brief. I am to home, and I am what you would see as like a Lemurian council member. Some people have gotten this in their heads that this is a thing in the here and now. Just like you have your Palladian Council of Nine and stuff like that. No. When Chuanda brought that information through, that it was 100% incorrect. There is no Pleiadian Council of Nine that's just like your nine or six of the Egyptian deities being channeled as the nine. It's the same crap group. Was he correct on Mayan technology? Yes, for the Mayan Federation. Whereas the bridge is in the center, you have a large ship, and you have the bridge in the center with the control center and the storage on both sides. Some of them are salvage people that work for the Mayan Federation and GF. Unfortunately, their federation had to make a tenuous deal with the Galactic Federation, because those that don't make certainly even tenuous deals with the Galactic Federation tend to, how can I put this, kindly get assimilated, very much like in your Starfield game, where there was an Earth Federation and their GF facsimile that warred, and the GF won that one. They don't want worlds that are not part of their membership. So if there is another federation, they make tenuous deals with them. That's good enough for them, like for trade exclusivity, things of that nature. Think just asshole pirates in that, fascist pirates in that way. But our group, we are descendants, except for one of us that was around at that time, of the original Lemurian council members, and those that revolted against the Syrian, he said, aristocracy or rulership or kingship. This is where you get blue bloods from, some of the blue skin lizards as well, and Orions. There's like a blue factor to the blood. This is where you get the royalty blue blood type of situation. Atlantis too, but with this, yes, there were some ancient Mayans over there as well. There was one by the name of Luminageti that stayed on the Atlantean Council representing Lemuria. But with this, the grievances that we have is there are plenty of channelings out there. Unfortunately, some of your past stuff included in this, not a lot, of certain predictions of events by one of our groups. We do not predict events, though we can see slightly ahead, very much like your Elena and Vesa can see slightly ahead because of the way the energies are rolling. You can calculate slightly ahead. You cannot calculate, you can calculate hundreds of years ahead, but it's iffy. He saw a concurrent timeline hundreds of years, 100 or so years, 140 years from now. But with this, the channel, some of the channelings that are out there that deal with the GF as wanting Earth as a member, or any GF, you know, the GF narrative of which I speak. The GF narrative is trying to get your government to do a New World Order routine to be able to get assimilated into the GF. Also, other species coming in to promote how wonderful the GF is. They want people to go along with it. This is something that's mass consent is needed for. Earth needs to form its own federation and do a trade, very much like the Mayan Federation did. But some of my grouping has been pegged for saying some of these things. I want to point out, as what was discussed a moment ago, that there are time frames people are connecting through and thinking it's concurrent with the now. They think it's right now, but since everything is technically now, this is true, but this does not mean that time is not real. I wish to state this for the record. Yes, there is time, there is a flow, but everything is happening all at once, like your multiverse, everything everywhere all at once. And like some insiders would say, your past lives, different people that are connected in the oversoul? Yes, but you're still connected by a thread. You're still the person jumping along a family line or something of some such like this. But people are connecting to a conduit. Or they may favor even a specific conduit or a specific being. But what time frame is that being speaking? Is it something just after Atlantis fell? Is it something that isn't your current moment? Is it something that was something during the peaceful times? Was it something during the seeding of Earth? Was it something during the period that Asgard ruled the system? Was this something or an event that was from a different system entirely, and you're picking up a residual from a piece of rock that landed on Earth? What are you truly picking up on because of an entanglement that may be from another system, another place, another time, another person? This is truly important because this is where some, if not most, of your channelings out there are coming from on that front. The other portions are coming from GF propaganda from some races and artificial intelligence. A lot is artificial intelligence at this moment, regurgitating and recycling some of the same messages and throwing people into a unending loop. And you've seen this with people recently. In fact, the one bit of information that I may correct on your part is where, yes, there is a, as you would say, copy of Lemuria in a world within a world. Yes, that is true, where tribes were continuously evolving, continuously just moving from how they were in the past to the now. But I wish to point out those beings weren't exactly bad, but they were not always completely on point for the current moment. He was seeing that very group a moment ago, a being by the name of Onta, and head of the council. This is where some of the information is coming from with some channelers. They're connecting to the time frame that was the council, and also now descendant lineage that moved on in that other world within world that looks exactly like how Mu did. It's not like it was copied per se. It was always there. Just like with Asgard always being there, the planet was the access point. Earth was the access point to that dimensional space, always. And what you saw, part of it sunk into the ocean, but yet there was always that considerably larger mass in that other dimensional space, if this makes sense. People are getting some of the channelings from there, and the messages consist of this. If they're commenting on the 3D, 4D, 5D connection or tunnel or causeway, meaning energies evolving from one to the other, it's really about changing perspectives and perceptions. The others are, there is a blockage moment. The others are more the GF narrative or ascension narrative. You know these things already, but the channelings that are coming through are making it seem as though it's coming from us when it's actually coming from AI and other nefarious sources trying to either propagandize a GF narrative or trying to throw information off track and keep people in the more not necessarily, I don't want to say new age mindset, that sounds derogatory. It's more in not updated information and keep them in loops. Your government created some of the new age stuff back in your 1990s, like your Lionsgate portal and whatnot. If anything, any information we gave on the harmonic convergence, Lionsgate portal, or any of these things, this was not us doing this. And some will even purport themselves and show themselves as Pleiadian groups. Again, this is not us. This could also be Langagarthan tribes. This could be interdimensional, or this also could be aliens posing as some of us or some of your holy figures. And you've said this in shows in the past, the alien disguises, and you've encountered this very, very recently yourselves. We always show ourselves as us, but people are entangling different time frames. This what makes it confusing, and they're not discerning. Again, not casting judgment. We are just pointing out, just like the Deer Forest people said on your GIC site, whereas there was a logo that was mismanaged, that didn't have their correct images, and they came in and wanted to correct their face. They wanted their face shown always, the deer alarum, wanted to get rid of the unicorn farts imagery that's out there. But we're doing the same thing if we're going along these threads. So I can go into questions if you like.
So if we've spoken about our interpretation of what I'm about to say before, so I'm not going to go into it because I want your perspective. So I wanted you, because I don't think people, if they're listening to this kind of new, understand what's the concern, about speaking to something potentially in the past. Again, for us, just a snippet, we are concerned about the energies of that time and energies of that time seeping through, which can affect here. But what I want is, again, to help people understand why you would really want to refine what you're looking for, and you want it in the current present moment. From your perspective, why is that so important?
It's not that it's always harmful, but some of the people you're speaking to are genuine and good and benevolent, again, with no conflicting agendas, but they are seeing things from the perspective which they are living. They may not be seeing what you are seeing. You too have run into this concept yourself, where you've seen shadows of the past, where they're seeing you, but they weren't seeing your surroundings. They were seeing you as more gods, rather to worship or have a prayer done over them or something like that. This in lies the problem. This affects all moments of the past. He was seeing this in your St. Augustine as well, where there was a ghost group that went into that fortress that's there, because there were ghost reports there. But they didn't realize they, in the future, were the start of the ghost reports that were then given in the past, because the people of the past saw people of the future, thought they were seeing ghosts, therefore the reports were generated, therefore the people showed up to begin with. That's more of a synchronistic, time. He calls it a destiny paradox, where it's in a fulfilling, self-fulfilling prophetical loop. This is what this causes. And I'm not saying that this is this isn't always bad, but some beings may be saying, "Oh, there was an invasion here, or this happened, or this happened." The human then interprets as this happening in the now, and they're always told that time is always indicative of the now. You see the problem here. Therefore, they are mirroring stuff. Possibly, they're even seeing another version of themselves from that time frame that the Oversoul is now bringing forward to give information. You see, a past life of theirs that is coming forward as well to give information on another aspect of themselves that are doing this. The problem with this then lies the fact that the interpretation of the person with the information that's come forward will always be biased and always drop it into the moment they're in, which they have been trained for a long time to believe that all time is all conducive to the moment, which is not false. So they are then told they can bring all these things in. Not only are you mirroring a different frequency from a different time, causing more of a connection or fracture, but you are then seeing that truth as complete sacrosanct in a biased vision to the moment that you are in. It is a misinterpretation, like a Pleiadian group came to the WASPy people one time and basically said, the people writing that book series, and said that they found a way to replicate meat so they didn't have to eat meat anymore. The people at that time said, "Oh yes, we won't eat meat anymore, thank you." This is the type of bias. When you go into channeling, you have to be completely unbiased as to what you're looking at and why you're doing it, what you're doing it for, etc. You have to be very clear. You cannot just, what's the term that you use, do things willy-nilly. And you guys are not doing willy-nilly. What our main grievance is, people are not distincting the timeframes by which they are connecting to. You guys now know this because now you are saying true benevolence, no conflicting agenda is only important to the here and now. This may be a shocker to some metaphysical people that are listening. This does not always mean the past is in the here and now. This does not always mean the future is always in the here and now. You are representations of past, present, and future, and the present is in the here and now through you, through your genes, through your past lives, through your very oversouls. That is where the here and now is. There are different ages of Earth that have been recorded. Yes, you are recording things linearly. Yes. Does time exist as you completely know it? No. But is it about astrological alignments and also the energy frequencies that exist in those particular astrological moment alignments? Yes. It's like in your Discovery where that one character, Georgia, was going through an aphasia because that frequency was out of whack from the time frame and universe by which she originated within. Some go through this, some do not. That's a real concept that was being shown. This is how you can judge where those alignments are by which that temporal frequency by which that person is standing within. If there is too much of an offset, that means it is way off. But some people are not measuring this particular rotation.
And so one of the things, again, before you came in, Chris also tried to make a point where concurrent time to this one. I mean, it's really hard to kind of figure out how to say
frequency matches and frequency misalignments. That's usually what it always boils down to.
So frequency matches then are those things that are within the concurrent timeline you're saying of where we are. Frequency matches.
Correct.
So just again, to give folks that are listening who do channel maybe some more definitive kind of wording to use to try and bring things that are matching, and get perspective from those that are matching, that understand everything that's going on.
Yes, correct. Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
So I'm glad you brought that in. I have to sit back and I'm a little bit amazed over the last few months how much GF has been coming into conversation. I obviously know it's not awake. I must tell you that, there is a Goodwill Foundation here. So every time you say GF, I think the Goodwill Foundation and some of the, again, works that they do. However, I find it very interesting. If you truly are in need and you can, and go to some of their places, you may find what you need because you're truly in need. This is going to sound horrible what I say, but I'm going to tell you because it's what comes to mind. So again, so is above, so is below. We're going to use that concept. Forgive me for the word I'm going to use because I am not relating it to the works that the Goodwill Foundation are doing for people who are really in need. Please don't think that. I'm talking about above, but I'm relating it because, again, when you talk about your tenuous treaties and sign an agreement for trade or whatever, do something.
You call this somewhat the yield, but it is not totally accurate to this, yes.
Right, because basically what you're doing is you're agreeing to a little bit of something to save yourself from the, you're going to be brought in one way or another. If you don't do this little bit, it's going to be way worse, which is funny because it makes me think again that what you're talking about is like this, the Statue of Liberty, give me, you're tired, you're hungry, those willing, and we'll help you, and you end up getting scraps. So again, I'm not saying
I think fascism.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. So, I mean, if you do the so is above, so is below, if you're in desperate need, something may appear to be, just thank God it's arrived just in time. Thank God it's there. Thank God it's going to help me through this moment. But you got to worry about signing that dotted line because, in the end, what are you really going to be dealing with? Are you really going to be that shining city, where everyone's great? Or is it really always going to be a case of scraps? And that has just been in my mind. And again,
think also trade as well with your Goodwill, for instance. Where do you think some of the galactic traders frequent? Thrift stores, antique stores, things of that nature. And it was depicted accurately in your Strange New Worlds with the lady that had the thrift store. That's 100% accurate. She was even accused of even stealing the objects in the later time frame. That is also accurate. Because why do you think your Nazis stole all the artwork? They were wanting trade-ins and shoe-ins and buy-ins, or annies ups, basically, like you would for gambling. They wanted to be able to pay in.
Right. So, I mean, so when you think of the, Goodwill, I'm going to call them the Goodwill Foundation of the stars, okay, that are coming your way, basically, I certainly wouldn't advise jumping in with both feet. I think that's foolish because, and why do you need to do that?
Wade in the water the minute, wade in the water, yes.
Right. So that's what all kind of came to my mind. So I didn't know if you wanted to give your perspective of why now every other conversation we seem to have has GF in it.
This is actually quite important to the here and now. There are many channelers right now that go along with, again, the connecting the past, but the current schmoozing, let's just say, or propagandized thing, we'll go into that now, where they even appeared in your Starfield game with the two factions. This was showing what would happen to an Earth Federation if they didn't enter into some weird tenuous agreement like the Mayan Federation did. Their version of the GF conquered or mostly assimilated that of the Earth Federation in that game series. Highly and completely accurate. What is going on? There are ETs showing up, and he even discovered this in the original older GIC set. You see, where different beings had different agendas that attached to some political agendas, some attached to, the Earth is more waking up, and people were attached that to one political party, usually the red side, by the way, the red versus blue. And I won't go into that since you're putting that in the free pile. I won't mention certain things with this. But with the GF narrative, you have certain channelers out there that are bringing in these beings willy-nilly that are the spokespeople for the GF. He's seeing it's a similar bloodline to the very Syrians that ruled over Lemuria towards the end, you see. Similar bloodline, or dark elf, like what Odin attempted to fight. You see, there's a fine line between imperial rule, fascism, and also freedom of choice. You see this in your Ahsoka series, where, of course, they purged the Empire, but then they left themselves open because they were always arguing amongst themselves, weren't quick to act against your Thrawn character that was in it. So therefore, they were accusing some of the good guys, the warriors, of being unbalanced or not following the new structure. And you see this with the GF. They're taking advantage of this because they're more united in their intentions. You see, as above, so below. Your cabal is also allowing set up the stage, and your government set up the stage for some of these false channelings, by which then that GF narrative eventually would align to a particular alignment, which is now, and would bring through more of this, just like what happened to Atlantis, where the Orions were attempting from the original Orion Wars to connect via across time to about roughly 10 to 12,000 years ago. You see, across, it was about 9,700 to 12,000 years ago. That's kind of in that bracket. They went from 500,000 years ago to that spot to be able to influence the Atlanteans like they influenced Odin and the rest of them. What is going on now is the same thing. The worship in the Nibiru and flat Earth narrative, which you have spoken about at length before, trying to connect back to a time where Nibiru was actually a thing. It is not now. You see, back to a time where it was at its height, just like in your Doctor Who, where the Gallifrey was stuck in the time loop, and the Master sent a signal on Earth when he transformed all the people into himself. Like, this is a symbol. The Cabal and the Nazis transforming all into like themselves. Common agenda. That no conflicting agendas amongst them, connecting as above, so below, like what happened in that last David Tennant episode they had, he likes to say. With the GF narrative, you have ETs that are showing up, saying how great this will be. Think of these as agents that are advertisers. He would call them used car salesmen, which I think is far more accurate. Not the used car salesmen of the universe, which would be the Canis traders. I'm talking about the people that are coming forward and saying, look how great this is. you can unify into a one world order. You can be part of this organization. You just have to work together, which unity is fine. Forced unity is not. That turns into fascism at that point and Nazism. You do not want this. Like what they were saying in that episode with the master, master race, unifying as himself with every person connecting to Gallifrey. That is exactly what they're trying to do with certain channelers out there saying, even have question and answers in classes on the GF narrative, what you need to know for Earth entering the Galactic Federation of Worlds. This is happening right now, or it's a gift from the stars type of thing. You must watch out for this. This is Greeks. These are Greeks bearing gifts, just like what that crop circle said with the gray face that was on it. Beware of Greeks bearing gifts. There is truly good out there. There is good out there, but they are not necessarily associated, or at least not. They're tenuously associated with the GF, like the Mayan Federation is. I myself am on the ground level. I'm not in necessarily the Mayan Federation per se, but I and my family can see what these channelings are, what people are accessing in different time frames. Just like the ET he encountered, the green one or teal colored one in the uniform with the medals and everything. That these are the spokespeople. They're a form of dark elf slash Syrian slash. Well, there's Orions behind it, but they're more related to Lankanators actually. That are attempting to get to these channelers to hedge bet to see how far they can push that channeler to either a point of destruction, a point of poverty, or a point of absolute meat puppetry servitude, as he would call it, which we find very accurate. Some people are very loud and proud in that area, and they gladly serve because they think it's for the betterment of the planet. Others gladly serve even though they know it's a ruse. Others resist. Others are very cautious, like yourselves, and that is the place to be.
Well, thank you. So it's this whole,
even if it seems like you're losing, you're not.
Well, again, I always, kind of what we do, or what we would always recommend people do, is try to figure some of this out on your own. I always throw it all up on the blackboard. You know what I mean? All the possibilities that you can think of, and or the strategies to make something occur. So, because again, some strategies would be employed. Some of the interesting dynamics behind that, again, we'll go into the what if moment. I mean, what if some of these things that people are saying about the true abilities that governments currently have, or we'll talk about deep black ops, or we'll talk about corporations, or different things that they're not, that there could be a lot of things that could currently already exist that would potentially help humanity. I'm going to say human made on Earth already, but hasn't been deployed for a lot of different reasons. I think these days, certainly one of those possibilities that arises in people's mind are sociopathic type of behaviors from certain powers that be, and or just a dominating force and a desire to acquire as much wealth, keep you in a in some sort of position of always needing help from somebody, and it's profitable to do so, let's say, in all kinds of areas, of your life, the basic necessities types of life. So if you were a part of an agenda like that already, okay, and you wanted to keep it, let's say, so again, this is all now hypothetical, but this is what I think people should be sitting around and thinking about. And then if it's all really possible, then what kind of strategies would you potentially employ to be able to maintain your position and or still control information, or still, I mean, one of the things I think I would never do, let's say if I were one of them, and I was sitting around a boardroom, and I'd say, well, there is no way we can introduce some of this technology, because we would be saying, basically, and be truthful about it, because we would be saying we've had this for forever, and the Earth's surface dwellers have really been suffering because we really didn't give a shit about you. We really didn't give a shit about healing you. We really didn't give a shit about making your food better. We really didn't give a shit about that. We had other priorities. You were in. And so if that is a true potential, let's say, of something to throw up on the board, it and then you wanted to join, let's say, this group that you know exists that everyone else is still wondering about and whatever, it would be an interesting strategy, because what would I do? I would basically, let them be the saviors coming in with technologies that already exist that I wouldn't want to tell you about. And, some of these wonderful things that they're going to do about us, which is not them doing it at all. Again, it's releasing of things that already exist, but never having to tell the backstory of when they didn't care. And then convincing everybody, because these saviors are coming in with all this new stuff, that we should be signing all these agreements with them. So I don't know from your perspective if, my thoughts, it seems to be a strategy coming up. And again, and I go to one other thing that I'm really curious about. I've asked this before, I'm going to ask it again. Is somebody very, very well known that a lot of people follow is predicting with high probability in a couple of years from now, there is going to be some sort of alien something going on, and is starting to predict it, which I find that's interesting because it's corresponding with a lot of GF. So, and you heard what I just said. So if you feel you can give any sort of, things to think about.
There is no such thing, and I will say there is no such thing as the event of star coronal ejection type of disasters or solar flash or any of these things. There is no event. The event is yourselves. You've been told you are powerless, just like in that show called Powerless, where they were showing the regular humans depending on the superheroes. It's the same premise. And that was a spell, a very dangerous spell that was put out there saying, well, you have to wait for Superman, just like the documentary Waiting for Superman. Instead of people waiting for somebody, they're doing things themselves. This is what exactly goes on here. Is there a mass awakening or mass ascension? No, there is not. Is there a gift from the stars? I suppose you finding out who you truly are is that gift, but you must know who you truly are. You are descendants of colonists that actually came here. This was depicted in that movie you just watched, 65, where it showed the before that happening. That was actually quite accurate, even though Asgard would have been in some of its more preliminary stages at that time. That would have been there. There would have been no asteroid belt per se. The asteroids were flung into the system to kill the dinosaurs at that time. But that was an era before the Earth was seeded for yourselves. So you are descendants of those colonists. You did not evolve from any life forms that are here, except you merged with some elemental forms. There were elemental forms even before the dinosaurs, which Chrome and them are part of the Titans. They were here. Some giant groups were already here. There were later giant groups, as he said, and also Poseidon said on your other episodes. There were ones that were the Nephilim, the ones that Enlil tried to destroy, and various other details in that grouping. But the important thing is here. I know people are desperate to have changes. Do not look to any of your political leaders for this change. Do not look to the skies for that change. Look for that change within, and also the false alien invasion stuff they were trying to come up with, the deliverance of a particular alien race. That's not completely the delivering of different alien races that they want to introduce is not totally off the board. They yanked it off the board because people were becoming more aware of this. They're trying to recombobulate that in their script writing areas. You heard of there's two different types of script writers, one that script write personalities and brainwaves, what they will be an agent in society like your MK Ultra. Then you have other script writers that form distractive headlines. You found out about those script writers first. Within those, you will start to see certain things more towards a false disclosure narrative like what you are seeing. Not to poo-poo Some of the people out there that are more innocent, but there's a lot of champions, as you call them. Watch out for these. Do not expect a savior from above, the Jesus floating on a cloud crap. Do not expect this. People will either become expecting a second coming or the return of the aliens. When you hear we are returning, they never left. In order to return, you would have had to have left. You see, they associate this with the whole Nibiru rotating in the system thing. Don't you think if there were advanced beings on a planet, even within your solar system, that if they wanted to come here, they could have done it in the blink of an eye and not wait for a rotation to return into your society? They're returning. They never left. They went into other dimensional areas. And also some of them left humanity on their own when some of the treaties were being formed back then. They left humanity on their own in some areas. Some of the more benevolent ones left them to evolve. Some of the ones in later in history, rather. Some of them left because they got all they could out of that culture and just took off. And then some of them started these prophetical prophecies like they will be savior children in humanity, like your indigo children, 144,000, all those things that you've gone through. You must take all these prophecies with a grain of salt. The beings are already here. The beings, again, this goes back to the other time frame where some of the races were more purified to their own planets, one race, one planet, and now everything is mixed. You see, thanks to the GF as well. Just like you have your border situation, I will mention this, as was said in other GIC shows, whereas they're mixing the borders, this is how the GF operates, as above, so below. They promote the forced inclusivity. You see this stuff happening now. It does not mean that inclusivity is a bad thing. Forced inclusivity is a bad thing. You lose certain cultural identities. Some may need to go because of some things that don't belong in your here and now. It's like whatever is the highest good for the moment in time, or true benevolence, no conflicting agendas falls into that. But the most important thing that you have to discern is this good for yourself? Is this good for your world and your planet? Is this are you that desperate for change that you don't see yourself as the harbinger of that change? You think it has to come from somewhere out, from outside of you, not within. That's why the Romans chose to Jesus worship, so that you had to pick a savior outside that had to save you constantly. There is no such thing as a savior. There are beings that are kind that help you out from time to time. Are there benevolent spirit guides? You can say that. Are there angels assigned to you at birth, like a guardian angel? Absolutely not. That is he found out that was a lineage curse or a baptism curse by which then a demon is assigned to you. Be careful of these things. Even the Vikings saw through this at one point. They called a guide more of a warden. Then it became warder. It's hard to pronounce. His vocal's hard to pronounce. But warder, this actually translates to warden or handler. So they saw it as more of a guide, just like you have warning and advertisement are the same word. You have advertisement, which means warning. It's the same thing. And then now that you have your capitalist system, you have advertisement or ad, and then essentially warning, like your word trivia for the Roman Empire. It was trivia, or three-pointed road, where they put bulletins up. Think of this in a similar way. The warden, or vodar, warden, meaning handler, trying to, like what they do with some of these channelers, trying to skew them towards the GF narrative. You have to not expect the savior to come from above. Like they are trying to connect as above, so below. You must create your new so below to be able to connect to the as above.
Right, and I think some other things, this is, again, my opinion, some of the things to think about are what would you like to see in a galactic community type of environment? And I think, again, just like in communities here, and you want the freedom to be able to create, be able to participate in commerce, be able to get to know and whatever. And I think those should be some of the questions that are really brought up for society, what do you want to see? Because what some of the things that, and again, you would be a good one to comment on this from your perspective, is, what it feels like is happening is kind of not that. What it feels like is happening is that you are going to have a few approved methodologies or whatever, where really, again, the regular human being is going to be excluded from that type of activities, to not be able to think freely, create freely, be a part of it freely. And again, the difference between, potentially, do you want to be a part of a federation that's going to basically only be dealing with a governmental approved, again, that becomes kind of fascist, right? Way, or do you want, again, where everybody can participate and be a part of the world?
You want everyone to participate and be part of the world. They want it in a cookie cutter particular way. Just like your South Park depicted this as well, where they showed that Earth was more of a reality show, and the fact that the aliens were explaining it's usually one species, one per planet sort of thing. Your planet is the way it is because it was seeded. That was an actual bit of galactic disclosure that was right there, that was put in there. And they showed them wanting to cancel the reality show because the people found out about what was going on in space. There's a certain truth to that. It's not as melodramatic as they put it. But yes, the narratives that are going on right now, you must be careful of. If you were to integrate Earth into the Galactic Federation right now, your commerce would cease to be. Your individuality would cease to be. It may seem like it is a good thing, a shining light in the universe, but your personal lights will be ever dimmed. Think for a minute, even on a small capitalistic viewpoint. Say if you have a small shop, yes, they have commerce out there in the Galactic Federation. Yes, of course, but it's like your planet Coruscant in your Star Wars universe as well, where you had multiple shops, multiple things. That would be kind of like there is a planet like that out there where it's just a bunch of shops and stores. That's GF related, and it's different groups help create this. That may seem good, which is fine. But if that was applied to Earth, certain uniqueness of things would disappear. Certain individual right, not necessarily individual rights per se, like Satan people that focus on your gun rights, for instance. Do you actually think that they would be allowed to even keep things like that? Or would it be in regulation with what the GF wanted? That's how your government is currently acting on the extreme left, I must say, even though the right is not too much better in some areas. You see the parallels between that fascist viewpoint and what is going on with the GF. It's the as above, so below. So therefore, if you want to see more of that, of course, that's the GF. But people are so enamored with the way the Star Trek version is the way you need to create it. They don't separate them. You see, there is a huge difference between those two. You want the Earth Federation like you have in your Starfield versus the GF, but again, we had to do tenuous little trade agreements with them. We're not a part of their group, like the Mayan Federation. I talked to them. We aren't part of the group. The Mayan Federation is not part of the group. But they do trade with them, and there are captains that are ships in the Mayan Federation, and also have captaincies in the Galactic Federation, kind of like you had privateers that worked for a particular crown. Then you had pirates, and anything that's not GF doing the trading is considered to be a pirate. Just like you saw in your Ahsoka when the general left to go do her own thing, the new fledgling republic was kind of up the person's butt, pretty much. That's exactly what happens if you're going to do your own thing. Some of these pirates are bad. The soul trade, of course, is evil, which the GF participates in. But if you want people that just want to salvage and trade outside of that, that's considered piracy and not privateering. You see the difference. Your pirates on your Earth were the same thing. That it was when they wouldn't work for any crown, they wanted to work for themselves. They were considered pirates. You see, it's the same identical thing that is going on. Some of them were not the bad guys that you believe them to be. They started out as privateers and went, wait a minute, I can do this to everybody. There are some groups out there that also are neutral in the galaxy that do business by collecting frequency codes by hitting both Orion and GF and human sources alike. Those are somebody just turns a blind eye to that one because they also benefit from that. Your ICC and your GF and your Kabbalistic groups also benefit from this, as well as good guys benefit from this. So they just kind of turn a blind eye to the little Jawa little turds that do this. They're like the Jawas in your Star Wars universe. They stick a little frequency box in you and record the frequency levels. They clone those frequencies like somebody would clone a cell phone number in the earlier days and collect those, like how collect those codes very much like you also have somebody that collects credit card numbers with a little box. A thief will collect numbers. It's the same identical thing. It's a form of thievery as far as I'm concerned, and a form of hacking. And also like in your Matrix 4, where codes from the Matrix recreated the strawberry plant, it's the same identical type of thing, just for frequency coding. You'll see a lot of this trading going on out there. If you want to properly participate in the overall, I would strongly suggest that you do not necessarily do it yourself, work with other beings, of course, but there are other beings out there that would much rather see you form basically your own federation and do the same thing as what the Mayan Federation has done.
Well, thank you. So I think, the big takeaway here, since all of this has now been coming up, is that you have a right to ask questions, first of all. You have a
always question.
Right. You need to get into the weeds of the detail, and you have the right to do that. And I have a feeling, a lot of people's homes are going to be when they begin to ask questions and they're shushed up. And so that is a big red flag if you cannot really have those questions answered. And again, I think some of it, again, this is just my opinion, others may or may not agree, that if you look around at what's been happening over the last few years, there have been steps forward, in my opinion, to crush individuality, to crush small business,
yes, this is why.
Crush all of this, to go ahead and start moving forward in a type of society that you would then become used to, which is more like. So, but again, what do you think that's doing to you?
In a couple generations, people wouldn't know one difference of the other.
Right.
Because you lose certain freedoms, then your children and grandchildren don't know anything's been lost.
Right. And so they lose the ability to be personally creative. I think that's the interesting thing about this, creativity in thought, creativity in math, science, creativity in writing, and all of that is not being encouraged, if and again, and I agree, because from when I was younger to watching what's going on now, to see the lack of it. And so more to put people into a cookie cutter way of being and not allowing for that. Is that really what you want for humanity? I find it interesting because I think that in general with humans and the human genome, we are creative beings. And so to see some of that, in my opinion, try to be stifled, I feel it's going to cause a rub anyway.
And also human creativity is what's needed out there. Some beings will say, don't fix what ain't broke, but at the same time, humans will add a particular flavor into the galaxy as well.
Right. So don't let that not happen.
You want that.
You want that. And so I think these are interesting things for hopefully people to begin to think about, that if we're going to be introduced eventually, what do you want to look at it? And you want a say at the table and not to just be relegated into you don't matter. And so I feel, again, I've always felt in the co-creative spirit, I would take the time to jump ahead in your mind. What do you want it to look like?
And
bring it back now with the co-collective energies of people all wanting it to look a certain way is an enormous torsion field of energy that will tend to make it happen. But if you're not aware of it, If you have no idea about what's going on, then you can't be a part of that co-creation.
And also bear in mind, also there are beings that, as he likes to say, posing as religious figures and figures around the planet. Some of them are doing it out of a point of benevolence to build a bridge. Others are doing it as a deceptive measure. Be watch on this. Some of it is a Garthan group. Some of it is worlds within worlds. Some of it is genuinely alien, while others are genuinely dimensional. Not all of which are using forms that are not necessarily their own. And I say all of which because they're using the cookie cutter, either religious form or join the GF. That's another one. Again, that's the one we've been talking about. But the one also, some of these groups are saying they're from high elsewhere when they're right here next to you. That is a common ruse that is taking place right now. He spotted one of these the other night, or a couple of them the other night, using religious masks. I must say, as a man, I don't like that particular tactic. I understand why some groups are using it. Your Ligurians use this, because of course you have the encoding decoding issue. But this is something that if a being is around enough can resolve. Now is the instantaneous, shock that people go through where their heart stops or they have a stroke or something. That happened with that. He mentions the security guard that died because he saw an insectoid. Yes, that does happen, and I'm not poo-pooing that. That is a concern. But at the same time, there are ways around this in the channeling where the beings can say where they're actually from. They can say they're here with you. They can say they're out there, but none of which, and I must stress this, none of which are these religious figures. None of which that give the information on the Galactic Federation are for your highest good. They might not be evil, but they are of a conflicting agenda, or a recruiter. Think of like an Army or Marines recruiter that comes into a high school. It's the same difference.
Right. So when we say the words benevolence with no conflicting agenda, what the intention behind there, just to make it even more clear, has to do with the truthfulness of a situation. Now, I also can understand that it may be hard to see something that your mind's not ready necessarily to see. But in benevolence, the goal is going to be, if there's an encounter, that revelation or that truth will unveil itself. And that is the intention of doing it, at the proper time. And again, no conflicting agenda means exactly that. No deception to try and not honor you as a person, to be able to give the truth and to understand it so that you can make informed decisions. So those words, benevolence with no conflicting agenda, in my humble opinion, should be used by everyone now when they are out communicating, is to be more detailed as to what you want. Hopefully you're not going out there and saying, deceive me all. I hope that's not what you're doing.
No,
but if
no.
But Dottie, go ahead.
And people think that, that God is going to solve all of this. No, this is, it's one of those God only helps those that help themselves kind of situations, you see, whereas you must discern what is going on. As he likes to say, just for shits, act as if God does not know. We found that rather humorous. People always say, well, God knows what I mean. You have to be more specific in your intentions. This is more he hates the term school, but it is your learning from a fledgling state to a more advanced state. There's still a truth in that.
Right. So dot the I, cross the T, and your intentions, make it perfectly clear. And again, there is not one devious word or intention when you say, I would like benevolence with no conflicting agenda.
Yes.
It is for your highest good, for yourself, to include that as a part of the expectation.
Yes, and this is actually quite important. There are so many deceivers, hedge betters, and all-around liars out there. Some beings are not evil. They just have a conflicting agenda. They will want, say, somebody to get recruited into the GF, and they know they'll get a lot of resources out of this. They have your cabal has promised them land, for instance, if they get this going. But if Earth should not enter this, all of that falls apart, and that's the thing you want, folks. This is the thing you want. You want those plans to fall apart. You want to form your own thing. Do not get allured by the man behind the curtain. Always ask who the man is behind the curtain.
Right. And if they start using fear tactics, that should be a huge red flag.
And if they put their middle finger up and start saying you suck and F you and all that, they've lost, as he likes to say. It's that means that they've lost their hedge bet, and they're actually out quite a bit. When you stop some of them, this is the kind of the funny thing. You stop some of them, they're out a lot of resources. And it also, there are good beings that come to do the trade and everything. But if you also say, like he says, the whole angels unaware rule, where if you notice them, they have to run, that's not always the case anymore, because things have started to change, because people have started to notice the world around them. And the ICC and its tenuous agreements with the GF are having to reevaluate what these agreements and contracts and Faustian pacts truly are. So this is where I personally am at with it.
So I'm just going to leave it with you, because it's been a very interesting conversation, went in all kinds of directions that I had no idea about, but I appreciate it. I look forward to speaking with you or someone else from your group again. And any last words of wisdom you wish to share?
Yes, only this: beware. Also, Greeks bearing gifts, but also beware the gifts from the stars, but beware of forced unity. Somebody will come save today and force unify. No, you're supposed to lead by example, and those people follow their own hearts at that point. This a forced unity or a poof is a bad thing. It does not mean that you don't have grievances in your frustrations with people. That, of course, would be ridiculous to say otherwise. We have frustrations, but at the same time, the reason that we're able to come through is some people are not completely in judgment, but they also have legitimate grievances that we also have. So yes, you can entitle this episode Lemurian Complaints and Grievances. I suppose that's humorous enough. So this is where I'm at. So blessings to all of you, and thank you. Yes, he was kind of in a hurry at that last point, but yeah, he's correct. There, we've said this in GIC. I can always put there's the link to the site that's in the description. And we have some Q&As in there that answer a lot of these things. So if people think there's some holes in what he said, there's more of that information on galacticinterstellarcouncil.com, where you'll see Bjorn and us going through the Q&As on there of some of these different concepts, from the Lahaina fires to Injured Cold and Mothman, to all of these different agendas and conflicting agendas and stuff like that. Also, the fact is, you're not the keeper of the flame. That is one of the biggest ones that's popped up. You're not an anointed that has to be that anchor to have that divine information come in. That you're not an anointed figure. You might have come in ahead of the curve, but you're not any different than anybody else. So that's essentially a message that came through that was actually very profound in and of itself. So I don't know if you have anything to add. I can close this circle with no conflicting agendas, within true benevolence, no conflicting agendas. So Joanna, if you want to do the last affirmation and blessing.
Yes. Blessings to everyone who is out there right now that is listening to us now and in the future. We hope you found this conversation interesting. We send only warmth. We send healing your ways, and we send out to there to please know that your thoughts and what you want in this future mean everything. Don't let anyone tell you any difference. You are that important. Much healing to you, and we will talk later.
Yes. Now I say I close this circle within true benevolence and with no conflicting agendas. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.